and welcome. We are joined again by Brian Berletic, former U.S. Marine, geopolitical analyst, and also the host of the new Atlas, which I will leave a link to in the description. So welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me back.
So I could have added you now reside in Thailand, which fits very well the topic of today's conversation, which is, well, more specifically, the border conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, which many people, including myself, have I would say, a poor understanding of. So I was hoping you can shed some light on this, because it does have many layers. You have this bilateral tensions or conflict, but as in all strategic regions, you will have always some interest by the great powers, who will then often use these local conflicts to its own advantage. I was wondering if you could perhaps maybe start to outline the roots of this conflict. It's often presented as a conflict over temples, or how would you, how would you explain it?
It is a border dispute. It's rooted in French colonialism. The French, just like the British all around the world, left these ticking time bombs carelessly or deliberately, drawing up maps that would ensure future division and conflicts after they left the region. And there are spots along the Thai-Cambodian border that are in dispute. There are these ancient temples that are there that are contested, and then the territory around the temples are contested. And this is because this issue has been brought over the years to international institutions, Western institutions posing as international institutions, and their decisions were deliberately ambiguous to maintain an unresolved ticking time bomb of a border dispute. And so the temples are recognized as Cambodian, and the territory surrounding the temples are recognized as Thai. So you can see how deliberately this has been set up and left as a ticking time bomb. Nobody genuinely trying to resolve this issue would have left it that way otherwise. However, this is not why there is conflict taking place right now. This has been an issue, a border issue, since the early 1900s. And for the vast majority of time, including especially, we should focus on the 21st century, this has not been a point of contention. There has been vastly more peace in this area than conflict, and it only flares up at very specific times. And it only seems to flare up at junctures where the U.S. is trying to work a client regime into power here in Thailand, or a U.S.-backed client regime is being removed from power here. This border issue, along with extremely ugly violence in Thailand's deep south, separatist violence, as well as internal pressure by NED, U.S. National Endowment for Democracy funded organizations, they will create pressure within. And so the U.S. has an array of pressure points that they start pushing on when they're not getting their way with Thailand. People have to understand there are nations the U.S. controls entirely, like Ukraine, where it is just an extension of U.S. power. There are nations that the U.S. has almost no influence over at all, nations like Russia and China. But in between, there is a spectrum where nations lie, where the U.S. has some influence, but there are institutions, political parties, special interest within a country that are preserving their sovereignty against this influence. This influence the U.S. is reaching in and taking inside the country. Thailand is one of those countries. So there are the military, the monarchy, there are special interest businesses that want to preserve Thailand and its sovereignty. And the U.S. has built up political opposition groups, political parties. There's two big political parties led by two billionaires, Thaksin Shinawatra, Anaton Juang, these two billionaires. And they are trying to get them into power, consolidate control over Thailand, and then pivot it away from China, because it has a really close and growing relationship with China, and turn Thailand into a battering ram against China, like they have with the Philippines, or as they have with Ukraine against Russia. So it's very important for people to understand it. It's not as black and white as Cambodia has Chinese weapons, they're backed by China. Thailand is using F-16s in this conflict. Those come from the U.S., so the U.S. is backing Thailand. It's simply not true. And at this point, both countries have a close relationship with China. And I guess we're kind of going into the geopolitical aspect, the big picture of this. Both nations have bought weapons from China. They have a close relationship with China, but Thailand's relationship with China is much larger than with the US and much larger than Cambodia's relationship is with China.
What is the inner working then of Thailand? How great influence is that of America? Because you mentioned they're on the spectrum. Is it primarily then through these NGOs, or is it direct business interest or financing of certain political leaders, or where does it get its influence from?
Yes, it is the National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, which are still active here in Thailand, despite the misconception that it's been defunded and dismantled. They build up a network of political support for political parties the U.S. is also backing. So the U.S. through the NED has created media networks. They have infiltrated the education system through NED funding. And so they hold tremendous sway over the media and education. And then they also pour millions of dollars into these political opposition groups. The Thaksin Shinawatra, this billionaire who is de facto leader of the current ruling party in the coalition government in Thailand, and also Thanathorn Juangroongruangkhet, which is a large party in opposition in the Thai parliament. And but I say de facto because again, the Thai military has tried to remove these U.S. proxies at various points in recent years. There was a coup to oust Thaksin in 2006. There was another one in 2014 to oust his sister. His daughter is prime minister now, even though he openly runs everything illegally, I might add. And the Western media reports on this, and they don't really bring that point up. So that is how they're doing it. They're doing it through information space and the political space. The Thai military is an independent institution that serves as a check and balance against complete political control being exercised over all of Thailand. And so there are certain red lines that cannot be crossed. And that is how this current border issue flared up. Thaksin Shinawatra, his daughter, were making concessions to the Cambodian government regarding this disputed territory that the Thai people never agreed to or even were given an opportunity to debate. And territorial concessions that the Thai military was simply not going to accept. And so what they did was they conspired with Cambodia to put the Thai military into a position where now they are forced to fight this conflict. And it is a senseless conflict that does not need to be fought. And as I said, in the past, 2008, 2011, these were other junctures where Thailand's, if you want to call it a deep state, was trying to remove this US-backed client regime. And then suddenly this violence flares up. It is being coordinated between Thaksin Shinawatra and the government of Cambodia. Hun Sen is president of the Senate. His son is prime minister of Cambodia, and they are close family friends and political allies with Thaksin Shinawatra and his political organization here in Thailand. People are claiming that there is some sort of fallout between the two, but again, in 2008 and 2011, they were very close together, and this violence took place anyway. So the timing is very suspicious, and it looks like the U.S. is using a very similar strategy on Thailand that it uses to other countries. Strategies we're familiar with. I've talked about the RAND Corporation and the Extending Russia policy paper, where they have all of these options to put pressure on Russia everywhere along its periphery, geopolitically, economically, socially, and in every realm that they can. They do the same thing to other countries like Thailand. It's just not covered as widely as this conflict between the U.S. and Russia.
And well, given that the main geopolitical or even geoeconomic rivalries between the United States and China, what is the main objective what does America need Thailand for in this regard?
Well, it's not that the U.S. needs specifically Thailand. It needs all of Southeast Asia the same way it needs Europe to transform into battering rams and use against Russia. They want to do the same thing here with Southeast Asia against China. In the Philippines, they've already succeeded. If they cannot politically capture a targeted nation, say like Myanmar, which is Thailand's neighbor to the west, if they cannot politically capture it, they will then just create a violent conflict that creates a quasi-failed state that denies a constructive partner for China to trade with, to invest in, to build up its Belt and Road Initiative infrastructure across. And so that is the strategy that they're using across all of Southeast Asia, including here in Thailand.
What do we know, by the way, so far about the extent of damage or the casualties? Is it one side dominating the other, or because the Thailand appears to have some military superiority, at least stronger army and technical, well, the equipment. But how is the situation there, and how durable is it for this to go on for a long time?
I don't think historically these clashes do not go on for a long time, although this seems much more serious and more intense. If Thailand is a larger country. Its population is 4 times greater than Cambodia. Its military is about 3 times larger, 3 to 5 times more powerful. The GDP is 12 times greater than Cambodia. There's 70 million people here in Thailand. There's 17 million people in Cambodia, just to give you an idea. And the military forces, when you put them on paper, it is lopsided in Thailand's favor. But the Thai military does not want to escalate this out of control. They were kind of forced into this conflict in the first place, and they're being very measured in the response to Cambodia. Civilian casualties, however, are higher on the Thai side because Cambodia is using multiple launch rocket systems, BM-21s. These are Grad rockets. They're unguided rockets. They cause area effect damage. They fire it at a general area, and then everything in that area gets damaged, and people are maimed and killed in that area. They cannot hit a specific target with these systems, and this is primarily what they are using. And then Thailand responds with counter battery operations to target these rocket launchers. There's positional fighting along the border. Troops are entrenched on both sides. And so the majority of Thai casualties are coming from that type of fighting. The majority of Cambodian military casualties are coming from Thailand's use of artillery and airstrikes to target these rocket launchers. And then again, because the Cambodian side is using indiscriminate multiple launch rocket fire, it's hitting people's homes. There's footage of a 7-Eleven, a gas station. 2 hospitals have now been severely damaged by this rocket fire. Over 100,000 people have had to evacuate the area to refugee camps, essentially. In terms of numbers, the last time I checked, it was 14 civilians killed on the Thai side. Cambodia is not reporting on their side, although they have reported military losses, including a general who was killed over the last several days. So civilian casualties, it seems lopsided on the Thai side because of the indiscriminate rocket fire. Military casualties on the Cambodian side. The fighting, the territorial game seems to be stalemated at the moment.
Yeah, so, well, something you posted, the BBC reporting on Thai airstrikes on Cambodia, complemented with pictures of the attack on Thailand. So I thought this was an interesting spin. But how are Western countries, besides the United States, though, positioning themselves in this conflict? Do they have as much skin in the game as the Americans?
It's hard to tell at these early stages. As we know, the Western media likes to play games. For example, at the beginning of the Arab Spring, even though a lot of these Western media organizations in years prior worked with the State Department to prepare the protests, when they started, they pretended like they had no idea what was going on. So there's a lot of that. There's this narrative that I see taking shape across the Western media, trying to claim Thailand is US-backed, Cambodia is Chinese-backed. In some cases, they are reporting that Cambodia struck first. And so what they're trying to do is implicate China in this aggression against Thailand. And then, again, the use of indiscriminate rocket attacks on populated areas. And so you can see how they're creating confusion. They're not sorting this out. They're not zooming out and looking at the big picture. They're not talking about the division here in Thailand between the Thai military and the civilian government, the fact that the US has been behind the civilian government, this billionaire and his various political parties for the entire 21st century. He was prime minister as early as 2001, and the US was fully behind him even back then. And so it's a muddled picture, and it's a lot for people to wade through. And that's why I'm posting all of this information, even though there's a lot of it. People need to understand the background. It's a little bit more complicated than, say, the conflict in Ukraine, where it is just outright a US proxy war with a US proxy against Russia. It's a little bit more complicated, and the goal is a little bit harder to define. I would say the US simply wants to create conflicts. It sets the whole region back. This is a time where all of Asia is working together and rising together with China. We have countless US policy papers on the US State Department's Office of the Historian website, where they literally say, our goal is to keep Asia poor. Well, how do you do that? You interfere internally and divide these countries internally against themselves, and then you pit them against their neighbors. And that is exactly what this is a part of. That is the strategy they're using.
Is it working though in Thailand? How do they see this? Again, I know this it's hard to speak on behalf of all of them, but how is this portrayed in the media? Is it do they see this as you said, what America wants to sell this as, like a Chinese-backed Cambodia, which fuels some, I guess, negative sentiments towards China, or do they see America as a puppeteer? Is it mainly seen as a bilateral conflict between the Cambodians and the Thai, or do they see their political leadership as being flawed as well? Or how is this being received on the Thai side?
It's a good question. I would say it's seen as a bilateral conflict, and it is creating division between Thai people and Cambodian people. And that is on both sides, because I checked the media on both sides. And there is a deliberate attempt to stir up animosity against the other state, which for the region as a whole, for China, for all of Asia, that will set things back. And that is a deliberate objective of a conflict like this. There is a large group of people in Thailand who know the current government is backed by the US. There were actually protests not that long ago against this current US-backed government. A lot of people were looking in the news and they saw the protesters out and they were wondering, are these NED-backed? No, these are the protesters that come out to protest against the NED-backed political parties that are installed into power. And there have been color revolutions here, NED-backed color revolutions, and then there have been Thai-backed counter-color revolutions. So it's very important to sort out who is who and what's going on when you see these protests. So there is a large segment of the population that knows there's a little bit more to this. They know that I mean, of course, the Cambodian government played a role in precipitating this, but they also recognize the current civilian government as complicit in this as well. So they're not just rallying behind this current government, although they are outraged when they see Thai people being burned to death in a 7-Eleven, young people as clerks just trying to get their life started over a senseless conflict that was avoidable from the very beginning.